Well, it's Friday, like it or not. And I do like it. I don't know, it feels strange though. You know, the thing with a Friday is when there can't be a Friday without a bookend of a Monday. And so it's like every Friday, the joy of every Friday is tempered a little bit with the bitterness of knowledge that once something begins, it'll end. It's one of the things I used to complain about all the time with vacations. You know, you're on the airplane, you're going to go somewhere cool, and you know that getting on the plane means that you're going to get off it. And getting off of it means you're going to get back on it again. And you're going to come home and you're going to be right where you started out again. Well, you know, cynical thinking. Any case, I wouldn't. I wish we lived in a world where we could just get on an airplane and go on vacation. Well, it's Friday. Oh, wrist check. Okay, today's wrist check might be a little surprising to some people. That is an H803 7008. This one is from 1993, February 93. They were, pardon me, I think they were one of the last hybrids. H, in my mind, stands for hybrid, in that it's analog and digital. This is one of the latter day ones. It was produced in the 90s when a lot of their watch designs were pretty Baroque. I know, it's interesting because look, it has this sort of setup where it's supposed to look like fixed lugs, but it's not fixed lugs, but it does take fat bars. I forgot, I did everything except I forgot to correct the sweep. It's still not totally hitting. Oh, well, I haven't serviced it yet. All I did was do a full case rebuild and cleaning on it. I haven't actually serviced it, that's why. But the cases on these are actually quite robust. I was amazed how nice the cases were on these. I mean, they weren't fooling around. It's a domed Saflex crystal, unidirectional 120 click bezel, smooth as silk. Each button has doubled up, stacked, differently sized gaskets. Each one has like a big gasket and then a slightly smaller gasket. Each one with a pressure washer with a spring with the button on this to keep it all together. It's beautifully made. The crown uses the big single seal, just like SKX 007s and that kind of stuff. Same seal. Absolutely usable. I mean, it's an elegant case. It's a nice size. It's a nice shape. If you have the proper fat bars in there, it looks good. It's chronograph. It does all the different stuff. It has a light and it does all the different things. I don't know. It's comfortable. It's a nice size. I dig it. One of the things I like the most about it, and this is going to sound insane, is because it, for some reason, and I think it's the coloration, the blues, the metallic blues and the whites and the silver, puts me in mind of an astromech from Star Wars. But then I realized that's because it's kind of R2 color. So this I kind of think of this as sort of an astromech watch, but I like it. It's comfortable to wear. It's a good height. It's just the right size. I like the slightly thinner insert. The rotating ring is easy to turn. It's a very robust case, and it's rare. I almost bought one of these a long time ago, but it was non-running. It was a salesman sample. I liked the look of it then, and then this one came in a watch batch that I'm extremely glad to have, and I made a point of putting this one in one piece. I think it's a neat watch. I don't know, it's just there's something about it, and I go back and forth on it. Like I said, I almost bought one of these years and years and years ago as a sample case. And I was just looking at the sample case, and there was something about it that I dug. It just has good proportions. And it's amazing that the thing was completely functional when it came in, because I haven't had great luck with these. But that's okay. I think this is really cool. And the case, as I said, is really super nice. Anyway, it's growing on me. It's very nice. Marcus Angemeyer, Like that beard. Thanks, it's growing on me. Is that good? That was my first thought when I read the question. It's like, I'm getting used to it. I dig it and everything else. And it is growing on me. I think it suits. I just never thought I could do this. I mean, I'm waiting for it to fill out some, but this isn't a bad length. I don't want to look like Grizzly Adams or anything. Will Spencer. Best way to... Okay. This is a comment about the V-type crystals that Seiko used in a range of different watches, mostly in the 70s and late 60s too. Even the 6139 started out with a V-type crystal. It's where you have glass is bonded into a metal ring, and so the glass gets damaged. They're hard to find, but sometimes you can replace the glass, but you have to separate the glass and the ring, and it takes a lot of heat to do that. I use a heat gun because it's controllable and it's not messy, and I can get it up just to the height to the heat that I want it to. And then you very carefully press in a crystal press, a metal crystal press, and it just goes and it just comes apart. Best way to separate the crystals from the rim is ultrasonic or boiling water. I've had no luck using either of those techniques. Trust me, I have. The only other technique that worked for me was an oven. You put it on a thing, an oven, heat it for a long time, and then it separates. And that's how I got to the heat gun. It's a $5 change compared to $100 for the NOS crystal. They are rare and expensive crystals, it's true. But here's the important part. So this is for a lot of these V crystals are 30 millimeters. You can also, and this is important information, you can use Sternkreuz XMF 300. The 1.5 millimeter has the best shape and a good bevel. And that's great to know. That's great to know, and I appreciate you taking the time to let me know. But a heat gun does work great. You just have to, the only thing that's funky about it is you have to support the glass like on, I don't know, like a metal, like one of the metal dies from for my Vigor press. And you just heat it up and you keep checking it, heat and heat and heat, and off it comes. Boiling water always makes me nervous too. Nacho Valenti. Hi Spencer, I'm very happy that the mail calls are again on Fridays in the USA, Saturdays here in Europe. I love to see your answers to all of our questions while I have breakfast. Okay, well, I have a question for you. What do you have for breakfast? It is a tradition again. I would like to ask your opinion about Tudor as a brand. In the last 2 years, I bought a Black Bay GMT and a Black Bay Black 41 millimeter case. I'm more than happy with both. In addition to the completion and quality of the materials, I was impressed by how accurate they are. Less than half a second per day. That's pretty darn accurate. Many thanks in advance. Also, thanks for all your videos. Always interesting. We always learn something new in them. Oh, we learn all kinds of new things. Some of it might actually be true. I don't know much about Tudor. I've only owned one, and it was accidental, and it was like a dress watch, but it was a Tudor Prince, and I found it in a drawer at one of our abandoned locations that had been shut for years, and it was in a bunch of other crap, and there was this watch that at first glance it looked like a lady's watch, and I picked it up and I said, it's a Tudor. Well, that's interesting. Nobody knew who it was, nobody knew who it belonged to, and frankly no one cared, and I kept it for a while, and then we sold it, and that was it. I know older Tudor tended to use like ETA movements and things like this, and people had mixed feelings about that. And then they went to in-house. And I'm not sure how the in-house stuff has been received, but I do know that they have free-sprung balances, which is kind of a high-end thing. The one Tudor I've always been kind of tempted by is they've got their Heritage Chronograph. I love the look of it. in photographs. I don't know what it would actually look like on the wrist, but I think about that watch. If I found an old Tudor Submariner, one of the old ones, I'd happily wear one of those. I think that'd be pretty cool. The modern ones, I think the quality that they make is great. I like snowflake hands. Sabrina does not like snowflake hands. But I remember looking at the Black Bay and they seemed like they were pretty thick, pretty tall. And a watch, I don't know if I'm really down for... See? Longtime listeners, watchers will know that thing rings usually about 2 to 3 minutes early. It's very consistent. I don't know. I need to know more about them. What I need to do is go to an authorized dealer that sells these things and actually look at them. But, you know, I think the last thing I need is another watch. But, I don't know. I think about that Heritage Chrono. In any case, enjoy your breakfast. Starlord 85. I liked Star Trek The Next Generation Season 2. Some stinkers there, granted. No more Khan, please. He ended with the second film and should stay that way. Can't get into Picard or Discovery. Enterprise got really good before they canned it. Such a shame. Oh well, onwards and upwards. Thanks for the video, guys. And you're welcome. You know, ever since, you know, they had the first Star Trek movie, which was like old Star Trek in that you had sort of a scientific and moral conundrum and, you know, questions about identity and what is good and what is bad and all this other kind of stuff. And then Wrath of Khan happened, Star Trek 2, and from that point on, all Star Trek movies were about the giant evil thing that's going to destroy us, whatever evil thing is going to destroy everything. And ever since that change, it's kind of old Trek hasn't been around. Unless, of course, you count DS9. They have moral questions, don't they? Honey?
What?
DS9, moral questions.
Absolutely.
So what's the most likely philosophical companion within Star Trek that compares to TOS? Is it DS9?
I guess.
Ryan Walters. Dedicated workspace is a really, really fantastic thing. Having my own studio, separate from the house, is so intrinsic to helping my mindset too, and when you are finished, it makes it that much easier to check out from it. Thank you. Absolutely, and I agree. I've been going back and forth. I wouldn't mind taking a chunk of the garage, but really, if I had my druthers, what I would do is I would get one of those I would get some kind of a smallish prefab building. Like they make them, like you can buy like a complete shed. There's all kinds of stuff. You can buy kits for tiny houses and all these things, and actually put it, there's a spot around the house outside that doesn't get used for anything and is empty. And I could put it there and I could connect it to the garage. And I think that would be maybe kind of interesting. I do want to have my own dedicated space. It's only recently that, now that Sebastian's bigger, that the house really starts to feel crammed. Of course, it doesn't help that I have all this crap on the walls. So maybe I should think about that too.
Oops, my bad. Sorry.
DJ Lakin, L-A-K-I-N? DJ Lakin, I think. Hello, Spencer. I have a 1971 King Seiko 5625 7110 that keeps excellent time, but the only concern is that the automatic works do not seem to wind the watch, so at present I treat it as a manual wind. Is this a common concern with these movements or a straightforward fix? Thanks for any advice. Well, let's take a break and we'll look at those, because those have a Swiss-style automatic winding rather than the pawl lever. But it's there are a lot of components in there. I'm not exactly sure how you would go about fixing it, because those movements are the barrel and I'll talk about it.
So here's a 5606. This one's rusty, so and unrestored, so ignore this stuff. You're concerned about automatic winding. Okay, so these have the more complex, what I think of as like the Swiss-style automatic winding. So the way these things work, you have a winding weight, yes? The winding weight has that gear on the bottom. So the winding weight, as it rotates, what it does is, as it turns, it turns this wheel. This wheel, oh my God. The heck, honey? I don't know, she says. What, the endless fighting? So, sorry folks, ignore the fighting. The sisters, they fight constantly. So, the underneath of that wheel right there is that gear right there. Okay, that gear then, it goes and it hits this reduction wheel, and then this, which is sort of an independent piece. It rotates in two different ways so that no matter which way the weight turns, you're advancing power into the mainspring. So one of the things you're going to need to do is you have to ascertain where the problem is. First, okay, let's check and make sure that your weight is doing what it needs to do. So you would need to take off the case back, but you look at your weight. Is your weight actually turning this wheel? Okay. If your weight is turning that wheel, what happens when we turn this wheel? Well, we can't really see, can we? We know it's doing something, but we're not exactly sure what. So what we do then is to wish that we had prepared better for this segment of the video. Darn it, where did it go? Oops. Basically what you want to see, you've got this gear, goes to the intermediate gear, goes to the reversing wheel that's in there, and then you've got another gear here, and that should move this. You should see this, the ratchet wheel turning. See that? See the click? This is the click right here. Click, click, click. So this is the next easy check, is you turn this and you make sure that click is turning. Now, if your weight is turning this, but this turning is not getting power through and turning this, you've got a problem underneath your barrel and train bridge, which is right there. You got a problem under there. And disassembling that means you're going to pull this, which basically the entire inside of the watch is totally open. Hopefully the problem's easy. Maybe you just have a bad weight, I would hope. Let's hope for that. Let's hope that you just have a bad weight, because if it's something that's in this area, that's tough. I mean, you can still hand wind, of course, but that's one of the things. Okay. This next comment, sometimes I talk about the old days or one of the old guys. Usually when I say that, I'm talking about watch forums generally, like 10 to 12 years or more ago, and specifically the old SCWF. There were a lot of guys there that I started talking to. There aren't that many that I keep up with now or who keep up with me. There's a few. Aaron Costello. He's freaking fantastic. I talked to Eric Strickland, but he's a little too cool for school now. He's on the up and up, like getting like personalized tours of the the Grand Seiko plant and stuff like this. He's a pretty fancy fellow. But one of the ones I talk to the most, one of my friends, is Saul Brook. Saul has been around forever, and he knows all the stories and all the secrets. And unlike me, everything is archived, and he knows where everything is. So I trust his memory. He says, talking about the 6309 cases, back in the day, on the old Network 54 SCWF, Jonathan Koch made a very insightful observation that the 6309 7040X case was geometrically a super ellipse. Oh, we're talking about watch names, calling it the turtle. I get it. I've tried to champion calling it a 6309 SE for super ellipse, but it never gets any takers. I guess I am now an oldster who still winces at all that turtle nonsense. The only diver that should be called a turtle is a Certina DS3. See, I did not know that. And there we are. You know, I used to get all huffy about that stuff, but I mean, who cares? As long as, if we know what we're talking about, then that's fine. as long as it helps people gain greater understanding of what we're talking about. I don't.
No gatekeeping.
No gatekeeping. There you go. No gatekeeping. But I certainly feel your pain. John Cunningham, another very informative video. Thank you. I hope it's good information. Thank you for answering my question. You're welcome. Most impressive how you got into servicing watches and the history behind it. Desperation, anxiety, attempts to calm my racing mind,
Wow.
ways to keep my hands busy.
Well, you know, you have a cat to pet.
I do have a cat to pet, it's true. And I also have a giant wooden wall to sand. Let's see. Few people have the discipline to spend years developing the trade, but I believe passion was the main driving force that has taken you this far and continues to refine your skills. Well done. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've never actually, and this isn't BS or anything, I've never, you know, when you have second and third thoughts and you sort of observe yourself, observe your own emotions, and your own thought processes, I'm like, why do I still find watches so interesting? It doesn't make sense to me. And yet, if nobody paid me to do anything, I would still work on watches. I don't understand it. It's something to do with the way my brain works. So I guess it's passion. I guess so. It just feels like an involuntary addiction sometimes. I don't know. It's just reflexive, but I do love watches. They are neat. Dynamic 71. Oh, okay. This is a comment about the orange 754C, 7548 7000C. It's the orange 150 meter diver from the 1980s. Nice watch. I have a thing for orange dial watches. Cannot get enough of them. They really make me happy and get a lot of compliments too. Yeah, if they're the right orange, especially like this orange, which Seiko called, God, they called it Aztec, I think. It's sort of a blaze orange. Oh, maybe with a little bit of tangerine. It's cool. I used to wear a Seiko 6106 7107. That's one of the 70 meter sport divers with the orange dial. I used to wear that one pretty regularly. At the same time, I used to go get sandwiches a lot from a particular store that was next to a location I used to work through. And there were one of the young ladies behind the counter, my sandwich girl, used to, she's the only woman I can ever remember my entire life who noticed my watch. And that's because it was orange. And so whenever I would go in there, I would always wear my orange thing for the sandwich girl. And she never said anything again, but then she didn't work there anymore. And then the sandwich place went out of business. And now it's a really great taco store, really great taco restaurant. It's so good, isn't it, honey? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so good. Like the little street tacos, really tasty. What's the name of it? You don't know the name of the taco place that we go to like once every 3 weeks.
We don't go there once every 3 weeks.
Every 2 weeks then. Okay. Mr. James Duffy of the Sandwich Time channel. Hello, Spencer. Another question for Mail Call. Good news, this is Mail Call. I have owned dozens of Seiko 2220 and 2259 Seiko Chariot models, but I know very little about the movement. The manual wind Chariot's what started my interest in vintage Seiko. Are smaller movements for ladies and jewelry watches easier to service because they might be more rudimentary, or more difficult to service due to their size? Thank you in advance. Keep up the great content, Mr. James Duffy of the Sandwich Time channel. We're going to have to adjourn over to the bench.
Okay, so you asked specifically about the 2220 and the 2229 movements, I believe. Well, this is a 2220, and you should recognize this because this was your watch, which I actually need to service. Beautiful tank style watch with a sterling silver case. Beautiful watch. Seiko's work in this time period, it was exemplary. This is a 2220 movement. I mean, it's gorgeous. Look at this. It's got
Not even dia fix, it's got triple dia shock. It's as high end as it can possibly be. It's fully jeweled. It's a hand winder. It's are these things high beat? I don't know, but they're amazing. These are beautifully, beautifully made. Are they harder to work on? No. You just got to get them, get the size bigger. The balance isn't too bad. These dia shock springs are about the same size as the ones used in like 7019 movements, 7S26, that kind of stuff. They're like anything else. You just have to go slow. The biggest deal with these movements is that these small movements, that Seiko was always trying to save room, and so they tended to combine things. You'll notice this is only a barrel and train bridge. Oh, but God, look. Jeweled. Barrel is jeweled. At least this thing will run forever. But they were serious about that. They made them very, very high quality. Here is the littlest, one of the littlest of Seiko's manual wind movements. This is an 1100, very much a lady's watch. But again, beautifully made, gorgeous jewels, high levels of finishing, and they weren't fooling around. And they've got some good stuff. You'll notice, actually, on the smaller ones, the way they deal with the scale to make it less prone to, to make it steadier, basically, they put, if you look at the balance here, it's lightly built. It's the same basic thickness as, a heavier balance, like in a watch. It's the same. But on this really small one, the balance is actually about double thick. And what that does is it gives you a lot more material in motion, which is going to give it more, it's going to make it more even output. It's going to smooth things out. These are they're just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful movements. They're not terribly hard to work on. There's not much call to. I have so many parts for these 1100s. Nobody uses them. It's too bad. They're beautiful. Service, these things are great timekeepers. And these are also extremely nice. So again, not much difference. It's just smaller and you have to go a little bit more slowly. But Seiko's stuff, from this time period is just great. Let me see, I've got another one here. See if I can get this one. So, I did not mean to do that. This watch was not, this movement was loose. I don't even know how long I've had this. I don't even know where it came from. These mid-size ones, this is a 2700. You see these movements a lot in those mid-size divers. Come on, would you stop it? Okay. So this is one of the 2700 movements, and you'll see it's pretty tiny. But Seiko performed a miracle, and it's got automatic winding and hand winding. I think these hack, and they're also a high beat. And you can get these, these things, the watches that contain these things are worth nothing, which is wild, like the ladies' watches. But technologically speaking, they really are amazing. But they also have Seiko's thing where on a small movement like this, they really try to get the most out of the space that they've got. And so again, it's a barrel and train bridge, and even the winding bridge itself is holding a pinion. They're beautiful watches. There's some weirdness with lubrication, like how you deal with the pallet fork. They're just beautiful, beautifully made. And it's kind of criminal that they are so forgotten, but what are you going to use them for? But I tell you, if somebody knew their business, you could get as many of these 2700 movements as you ever cared to, or these 2200s, or these. Heck, they're cheap if they cost anything. And if you could case them, you would get a high beat hand winder. You would get a hand winder, high beat, I think hacking, like the best of the best of the best that one of these things could be. Make a case for it, And it'd be a small movement, but so what? Heck, you could even do one of the watches that has like dual movements depending on what it is you're trying to do. It's a pain in the butt, but it could be done. There's a whole world of these watch movements out there. No one uses them. People, all these startups, watch startups, using these quartz movements, cheap quartz movements. Imagine if they did something mechanical, hand winding, automatic winding, hacking, high beat. It'd really be something. It really would. Okay, well, I hope that's useful. Keith Donnelly. Hope you make it someday to Galway. Be great to meet with some Irish watch collectors here, and then you can see my ever-growing Bellmatic collection. I have added another three alone this year so far, and the year isn't over yet. Speaking of bells, how did the restoration go on your 4006 6071 with the Arabic numbers? The restoration went fine, actually. The movement came up beautifully. The watch came up beautifully. I upgunned that thing to 29 joules. It was beautiful, beautiful runner. On my wrist, it didn't work. I don't know why. It just, every time I would look at it, it wasn't right for my wrist, but it was a beautiful, beautiful watch. And it's with a friend of mine, Mr. Ryan Walters now. He has it. I assume he still has it. But I put everything into that movement, and it was a great movement. The quality of the Bellmatic movement they're top notch. They are top notch. And my hope and dream is to find a Bellmatic that can be in my rotation, my regular rotation. I have a good number of Bellmatics, but not one yet that's really gripped me. I think there is one that I would like, but it's not important enough for me to do now. I'm just thinking about it. Continuing your question. Good idea regarding moving your workspace to the garage. Would be interested in a video showing your current workspace setup. Thanks for another mail call. What you do to envision my current workspace setup is go get a door and put it on, I don't know, some wooden posts, and then take a bunch of watch tools and watch parts and dump it in a pile on top of the door, and then mix it around a lot, and then go to bed, and then come back the next day and look at it and say, I don't know where anything is, and then get to work. Let's see. Neil Sengupta. Hi, Spencer. I love your show on a Saturday morning. I'm glad. Oh, God, it's not Saturday today. It's only Friday. The kids are home from school, so I keep thinking it's Saturday. Question for next mail call. What is the difference between a 7828 and a 7838? Simply put, a 7828 is time chronograph only. 7838 is time chronograph day and date. They added day and date wheel to the top of the watch. Why are there collectors who collect one or the other? I prefer 7838s because I like date watches. That's kind of one of my things. Regards to you and your family. Really enjoy the show. All the best. Same to you. I don't know, man. 7As are... There's a lot of things to choose from. They tend to... I don't know. I like the 73.8s. I like day and date and legible loom at night and well-built movements. And that certainly is a 73.8. In terms of style, you see a lot of the 7A3/8s were the ones that were done by Dri Jaro, or however you pronounce his name. Though he did a bunch of 7A2/8s too. In fact, the Ripley and the Bishop are 7A2/8s. I don't know, I just like the 7A3/8s. That said, my favorite 7A still is the 7A2/8 7040 or 7049. Really cool. Especially the JDM 7040 because it has block script chronograph instead of cursive. And I think it looks a little cleaner. And it has that amazing bee-blasted finish I love. Watch me draw. We are all students till the end. It's true, every day. I'm also a visual learner and someone who learns from doing. Recently, I bought a few movements from an Indian seller. One was an Allwyn, Allwyn, and the second I thought was 6309A because it was marked as such. Usually, when I buy from that seller, the movements somewhat work right off the bat, but that 6309 just did not go. I noticed that the stem was pulled out, so I pushed it in and away it went. Kanji day wheel was my second hint. When I took off the automatic works and dove deeper, I realized I may just have a 6306 because of those diafix jewels. I mean, if you're going to look into it, all you need to do is look through the little port. There's a little hole in the plate, and you can see the hacking lever. If it's brass, then somebody was having fun and using a 6106 hacking lever, which used to happen all the time back in the day. That used to be the way that people would do it. There were like conversion kits, but it didn't really work very well. It should have an actual 6306 steel hacking lever, and you can see that there's a little hole in the bridge. You can see it. Either way, congratulations, and also nice to have the kanji day wheel. That is pretty neat. Someone's got a great username. I always wonder, what are people going to do? You know, you get somebody who has, who's finally being, confirmed to be Supreme Court Justice or something else like this, and they're digging through their history. This is like 20 years from now. And they have some ridiculous online persona name. And then, I guess you just have to live with it, right? In any case, LOL Poopsack 23. Hey Spencer, any thought on radium dial Dynie models? Seeing a few lately from up to mid-1968 with radium loom. There's a thread on the watch site Seiko forum of a 6105 8000 outputting 17 microsieverts an hour. I've never seen that I can recall a 6105 with what was obviously radium loom. Radium loom does a bunch of really funky stuff. Seiko, as far as I know, did not use it at that point, but I will tell you there has always been, with the 62 MAS, 6217 8000, 6217 8001, whatever, and sometimes Dynie would help out making them. They'd help out with different parts. They'd make inserts and the case backs, and I can't speak for the case because there's no markings on it, but case back for certain. And sometimes when you get those dials, they're the only ones every now and then that have that radium brown tan tropical look. And it's not something that Seiko Loom wants to do, getting that brown color. And it would be interesting to know if they were using some kind of compound to do the things that still had radium in it. One of the things I should get, I've been thinking this for, pretty much the whole time I've been doing this, is getting a Geiger counter, honestly. But I haven't done it because I don't know how much they are. But it would be interesting to note. It is my understanding, though, that even with a radium loom watch, unless you're doing something like kicking up a ton of radium dust and inhaling it, or eating radium, it's not really that much of a danger. A lot of the radiation levels apparently get stopped by almost, everything inside the watch. I will tell you, I own my great uncle's Rolex Explorer. It's from 1966, and that thing absolutely had radium loom. And I will tell you, the radium took the acrylic crystal and just made it like all this cracking, all this radioactive burning in it, all this stuff. And but the crazy thing is Rolex collectors prize that. It's like, you can only get it over time. And like, I'd rather have a new crystal. I don't know. I think what I'd like to do is to find out how inexpensively one could get a reliable Geiger tester, just to test these watches. That would be smart. Maybe I should do that. I've never seen a 6105 with radium loom that I can remember. I've only seen a few that went brown. It's a rare thing.
Oh, no, I lied. I have seen 6105 8000s with brown loom, just not very often, but I have seen a few. I had one in here now that I'm remembering. The guy found it in a pawn shop in Oklahoma. And he sent me a message before he bought it. He's like, "Hey, I'm in this pawn shop. Look at this watch." And I'm like, slim case 6105 8000 might have been an 8009, but it had brown loom, and I'm like, man, if you don't want that watch, if you're not going to buy the watch from that pawn shop, tell me where it is and I'll buy it. Dude bought it, and it was lovely. I didn't think about it. It was in good condition. I don't know. I just assumed it wasn't radium. Cheshire, not Cheshire, Cheshire 69. Hello, Spencer. I'm glad you can see the light of the end of the tunnel your jobs. Hello, Spencer. I'm glad you can see the light at the end of the tunnel with your jobs. Congratulations. Thank you. I have a question about a quartz movement, the 6923. Could you please let us know if it's worth rebuilding like the 7828 and 7838? I have the Royal Oak 6923 5079 and love it. Just kind of worried about fixing it if needed down the road. Thanks for your time. We'll have to adjourn. Over to the bench. Okay, well, the 6923 is one of many quartz movements that were cranked out by Daney in the 70s and 80s. But if it's good enough for James Bond, it's good enough for you, or me, or somebody. These aren't the James Bond ones. His was a 6923. Oh no, 8089. There it is. In theory, this is it. Some people say it was the all gold model. I don't have an answer for that, if it was supposed to be all gold or not. But a 6923 8080 was worn by Roger Moore in A View to a Kill. It was the first watch he wore. So it's a 6923. They are, well, here. This is a really junky one. Okay, don't let this fool you. All metal gears, all metal bushings. It's got a couple of jewels, not that big, but they do run actually quite accurately. But the biggest deal they've got is that fully variable trimmer right there. That means you can adjust accuracy on these until the cow comes home. Yeah, if you own more than one cow, then it would be cows. But it's like, this is one of these watches. If I wanted to go and take the time, I could fully jewel this thing. It's designed to be repaired, and one can upgrade it. They are what they are. They're 2 jewels. They're not a bad watch. They're not a bad movement. Whether it's worth it or not to restore it, that's not up to me. It's if you like the watch, but the movement is not a throwaway movement. It's not a chuck it movement. You can you can really, you can service this and they'll run forever. It's a little worn, but gosh, the dial on the hands are super nice, huh? That's a pretty nice one. Yeah, there it is. 6923 8080. 8080, or this one 8089, which is the American version. I don't know, it's cool. This one runs like a dream, if my memory serves. I think it takes a 371. Oh, for goodness sake. Come on, little baby. Really? Again? The heck? Oh boy, I don't know that I've ever opened this one. Yeah, I was right. It takes a 371. There, you can see what the movement looks like if it's cleaner. Let's find us a 371, shall we?
Ooh, good, they're right on top of the pile. Awesome. Look, brand new. 371. There she blows. Look at that nice long sweep. Isn't that pretty? Pretty neat. And again, with the variable trimmer, after something like this was serviced, we could get this dialed in really tight. Wouldn't that be funny to go through and fully jewel a 6923? They're good basic watches. When taken care of and serviced, they'll give great service. MG. Hi, does the 7548 movement fit to the SKX 007? It might physically have the same diameter, but it absolutely will not work. The 7548 is SUA, and the SKX 007 and all of those models, they're all Dyne. Totally different movements. They're not meant to be interchangeable, and they are not. But even if they were, the SKX and the 7548s have crowns at different positions. And also dial feet in different positions, it wouldn't work at all. So you would be cockeyed and it wouldn't go in. There's no way that I currently know of to quartzify an SKX 007, though I've been meaning to see if a 7C will drop into that case. I don't know that it does. But no, that's SUA too, and they have a 4 o'clock crown, so that would not work. I don't know. It'd be tough. You need to find if one located something, I think it would be entirely accidental. The crown at 345 versus 4, it nixes a lot of options. Rob Waring has some information about the 61, 39, 70, 10 caseback markings that I did from this last restoration. Here's a photograph of it. So he says, because the markings made no sense to me. Rob Waring, 50.11.14 is the year Showa 50, which is 1975, November 14th. Because for those of you who don't know, Japanese, they count from the beginning of each ruler's reign. They have the overarching years, but that was the year 50 of Hirohito's reign at that point. So this one was serviced twice, and we see those dates are there. Joseph Stewart. Hey, Spencer mate. I can't tell you how happy it makes me to enjoy Mail Call every Saturday morning here in the bush in Australia. Are you out in the bush? Really? Like out in the bush? Like, do you get dive bombed by magpies? Because I've heard about that. No, there's a great picture, honey. It came out last week. Someone had a reverse-facing helmet cam on their bicycle, and I guess magpies during nesting season will relentlessly dive bomb everybody who comes near. And this person, they had this photograph, and it's looking backwards, and there's this bird, and it's right behind her. In fact, I'll find the picture and put it up right here. It was not a happy bird. I don't know. I like corvids. Corvids are really cool. But wait, isn't the Australian magpie not a corvid? It's something else. It's related to like butcher birds or something. Anyway, you're out in the bush. Someday I want a nice red rock from the bush in Australia. A rock that's been sitting in one place for 40,000 years. That'd be great. His question continues. Are you any closer to releasing your version of that awesome Spidell strap? Where's that bag? Where did I put it? Oh, it's right there. Okay, so we worked with a
very accommodating and patient gentleman to recreate a strap for us. We haven't done anything with it because we kind of don't follow through on anything, and we kind of forget about stuff, and nothing really matters.
Like, oh wait, the thing.
You were like, oh yeah, right. Didn't we pay somebody to like design a strap for us or something? Like this morning I was like, we're getting t-shirts, but they confirmed the order with us like 3 weeks ago, and we just forgot about it. I paid it. I asked how to pay it online this morning. I don't know that I've heard back, but we don't remember anything. If anybody has any clues about a good company that produces, relatively speaking, small runs, relatively speaking, I'm not going to make 10,000 of the things, but I'm not going to make like 2. Then I would like very much to know that information. The straps that we have that we are recreating are one of the old long obsolete Tropic 2000 designs. You can see these are the mock-ups in just white 3D printed plastic, and we have mock-ups at 3 different sizes: 18, 20, and 22. And we are I'm literally, I mean, if we can find a manufacturer, I can make these straps in black rubber, and they're totally redone. They're super cool. I just like, every time I think, I was like, oh yeah, I've got to find some kind of factory to make them. Ideally in the United States. I don't want to go overseas if I can avoid it. But then I'm like, that's going to be really kind of complex pain in the butt to do, and I'll do that later. How long has it been now?
Months, like
4 months, 5 months?
No, I remember being like, okay, we'll deal with this when the school year's over. Now we're a month into
the next school year. I don't know. I have the straps up in my box, the actual straps, the originals. We changed a good number of details on these. We made them a little more modern. We changed, obviously, the logo and the text and everything else like that, but the spacing got changed, and we cleaned up a lot of the angles, because the original, when it was injection molded, they were kind of sloppy about it. So these are actually, should be nicer. I just have to do it. We're supposed to have t-shirts and watch straps and mugs. And
we're going to have t-shirts.
Beanies.
I don't want a beanie.
You don't want a beanie?
No. I don't know.
A hat?
A trucker.
I wouldn't wear a trucker cap. Yuck. Grossest trend there ever was. Every time I think about trucker caps, I think about Dad with his disgusting old greasy yellow one that had the mosquito on the front.
What?
He got it for free in South Dakota at some farm store, some pesticide, I don't remember what, but he wore it all the time.
I don't remember it.
It used to hang on the wall of the garage. He used to wear it, ironically, to annoy people. Okay. Garrett Jansen. Odd question, Spencer. I've always wondered why a watch's hand stack goes hours, minutes, seconds. Wouldn't it make more sense to have minutes at the bottom, then hours, then seconds for always clear visibility? Do you know if that ever being done or why it is the way it is? A dedicated workspace. Oh, this is another part of a question. So boop, we end about that. Then he says, a dedicated workspace may end up being beneficial for you, though I'll miss the surprise intrusions by everyone and the pets. Well, we take what we can get. So think about the old school dress watches, the ones on the wrist, or think about pocket watches. They get hour and minute hands, right? And then they'd have a sub-seconds hand with a little hand that goes. If they had seconds at all, that was kind of a new thing, having the sub-seconds hand. The breakthrough then came when companies figured out how to do center seconds. Center seconds was kind of a hard thing to come up with, and and that is where it had stay. Why do they have minutes at the bottom and then hours? Because you'd have to. I mean, you can do it. You can. You would have to change the wheels and their gearing. I'm having a hard time imagining what it would look like. I think it would be sort of,
I think it would be sort of odd looking, but I wouldn't be able to figure out why. I don't know, hours, minutes, seconds. I think that flows. Hour, minutes, seconds. It makes more sense to me. It's not a bad idea, but you'd have to redesign the calendar with completely different ratios and the minute wheel and the hour wheel. It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting. Tom N. Hi, Spencer. Glad you're doing mail calls again. I didn't stop. I just put more space between the ones I did. I guess that's kind of the same thing, isn't it? Without divulging their name, can you tell us whether the Schlock Watchsmith is still working as a public service announcement? I don't know. I have no idea if he's still doing it.
I haven't heard about that guy since you freaked out.
Since I freaked out. Honey, I freak out every day.
I know,
multiple times a
you
day.
were so pissed.
Multiple times a day. Oh, well, that was just, I don't like being, I trust people. I'm a trusting person. I expect people are going to want to do their best. The people are going to work to, to be honest and to be decent people, decent. And the fact that I got the watch back and I couldn't tell that if he had in fact done anything was maddening. And there were a lot of other people at that time who were talking about poor experiences with the person, and whatever. I got my money back, and thanks to him, in part, I'm doing this now. So, all's well that ends well. I don't know that he's working. And his name was big in those days. I don't know that anybody thinks about him now anymore. Who knows? Last comment. Jeff Talley. Hello, Spencer. This week's video was great. Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed it. That's good. I hope you are all well and safe. So far, everybody's here under the roof at this exact minute. I know where everybody is, and that's good. I've helped my dad work on his MGB GT, so yeah, I know what you're getting into. Those British Leyland guys, woo-wee. You'll see what I'm referring to. Wiring nightmares, engine nightmares. It's going to be a fun ride for you. Please document as much as you're comfortable with. I'm looking forward to seeing some of it. I grew up doing car work with my dad. I grew up specifically doing a lot of English car work with my dad. Several MGAs. MGA, then another MG. Did he have two MGAs? I don't remember. He had an MG... he had an MG Magnet. He had a Hillman Hunter Estate, a Jaguar XK150, couple MGBs, plus a bunch of Volkswagens, old Volkswagens. So I'm familiar with like the electrical problems, though they didn't seem to be too severe to me. Engines, I never ran into any problem with engines on any of the English cars. Heck, I mean the 73 or 74 MGB GT, the orange one that my mom used to drive. I used to drive that thing all over creation when she got her little neon.
No, she got a Geo.
Oh, Geo. Now you had the neon.
I had the neon.
But I drove that car all over the place, man. I drove that MGB. I drove it down to Denver. It would cruise at highway speeds. That thing was nuts. And it was solid. It never, no, it failed me once because the distributor bearing failed, and then the timing got really wonky, and that had to be fixed. But beyond that, it was a great car. I don't know why we sold it. That was a great MG. And it was unusual in that it was original blaze orange. It wasn't a one that was another color and then painted blaze. Wiring is going to be interesting, but I'm going to, there are, you can buy brand new wiring harnesses, and they're not that much money. Apparently, I have been told over the years, the problem with English, with those Leyland electrical wiring harnesses isn't so much that they're poorly made, it's that they bizarrely need to be maintained. Because especially they don't have like hard screw-in connectors, right? Like a lot of cars do, or really big clips that connect together, plastic housings that go clunk. At Leyland, they would put little lead solder tips on a wire, and then you go punk, and you click it into another connector, and that's how you join the things up. The problem is you have
what's not a really super secure connection, but it's okay. But over time, the cloth wrapped cords, bless you, can, what'll happen is you get dirt and filth and grossness in this little tube with these two metal connections, and then it stops making the connections. You have electrical problems. The way you cure that is you have dielectric grease, and it's basically it's a grease that keeps water and other crap out, and also will conduct electricity. And you kind of basically have to do it that way. It's silly. I don't know why they do that, but that's what they do. But I remember Dad saying, "Oh, you got to get that dielectric grease," and then I've read it since then. So, I'm starting from the ground up on the MG. It's once I finish the garage, I'll get to it. I have to sort of. No, I'm happy to bring back this MG. There's a dude in town who's trying to sell another MGB, a 1970 MGB GT, in red with a brand new interior with the 4-speed that has the overdrive and all kinds of stuff and doesn't have any rust, and he doesn't want a ton of money for it. I'm like, but it has the mag wheels, which I don't like. But then I would have 2 MGs. I don't want 2 MGs. I don't need 2 MGs. I'm going to restore my MG, and it's going to be awesome. I don't know. That's it for now. I'm going to finish processing this video, and then we're on to the weekend, and I'm going to work on my garage, and we'll go from there. All right. Well, thank you for your questions and your time. I appreciate you watching, and we will see you later on in the week. Adios.